All right, so team, in the last 2 years, I've helped high earning men with established careers hit fitness goals that they've been chasing for years, get a side hustle off the ground with paying clients with money coming in, move up the ladder and earn more money in their roles, and essentially stop procrastinating on the version of the man they know they're capable of being. And I did this without frameworks, without protocols, or without them constantly relying on me for answers. And today I'm going to reveal to you the part of the mind that holds capable men back and give you a free diagnostic tool to show you which patterns are running the show in your own mind and sabotaging the business or the life you're trying to build. So the first thing we have to look at is the mind, and we are going to look at the unconscious mind in this video, because the unconscious mind it holds a lot of what we do and don't know. And what I mean by this, it carries patterns, destructive patterns, great qualities that we have, or behaviors that we haven't recognized in ourselves. And these are mostly developed in childhood, and a lot of them can be tied to what's called the mother and father complex. If you don't know what they are, and this is the first time you've landed on this, then I would highly recommend you go check out this video here. It breaks down the mother and father complex, and this video is the third part of this series where I'm demonstrating inside the method how I work with clients. So the unconscious, it carries patterns, behaviors, and qualities that you may have cut yourself off from. Somewhere along the way into adulthood, they weren't deemed as acceptable. They didn't fit into the environment that you were in, or they were just tied to a painful experience. So you rejected them. And what happens is you don't actually not develop the qualities, they're just buried underneath into your unconscious. Now, in the men's space or in the personal development space, you'll hear the word or these term shadow work. It's quite popular these days. And essentially, the shadow, in a Jungian sense, is just everything in the psyche that has been cast out of your conscious awareness. This is both the dark stuff and the positive qualities that just didn't fit a version of yourself as you were developing yourself as a human being. Stuff like maybe your mother might have said, don't be loud, which would have suppressed that bold and abrasive behavior that we all generally have. It's not cool to cry, which would have suppressed that vulnerability or that level to connect with another human being. Because if you can't connect with yourself first, then it's very hard to connect with somebody else. Or anger. Anger itself is just an emotion. It's what we do with the anger is the direction of it. So aggression is more violent, assertiveness is more in a healthy direction of anger. But essentially, if you were told to not throw your tantrum or not throw your toys out the press over and over again, then you're told to not embrace that part of you. Whatever your environment couldn't hold, you just cast into the shadow, you're unconscious, and you walked around with it with the rest of your life unknowingly, and it just leaks out into other areas. The thing is though, shadow work, it doesn't have to go as deep as what people are saying out there. You know, you do not need to go on a weekend retreat. You don't need to scream into a pillow. You don't need to go do plant medicine or like long hours of journaling to work with your shadow. In fact, you don't even need to label it. You know, someone who's very good at working with somebody's shadow, they will not say that's your shadow. They will be able to just draw it out of you and start to help you build a better relationship with it. You just need somebody to essentially map it out without labeling it on you, help you understand that part of you, that part of your mind, that part of your psyche, and give you the tools and the challenges to help you develop it and integrate it back into your what's called your ego complex. Guys, since we are talking about unconscious patterns that are buried within your psyche, I have written a book, and it's based on, after 2 years of working with men, 80 one-to-one sessions, I put together the most common patterns I found which hold men back. And these are things that are happening on an unconscious level. It's a free diagnostic tool. It's called Unbound, and you can download it below. The link is below. Now, to give you a better understanding of this, I'm going to share with you what I mean by working with somebody's shadow or working with somebody's unconscious and helping them develop a better relationship with it so that they can go on and do the thing that they were set out to do without this self-sabotaging behavior happening. And in this particular case, this client came to me, which resulted in him getting his side hustle off the ground, landing 3 clients. And he just, as I'm recording this, sent me a message last weekend saying that he was now going full-time into the work, which he's deeply passionate about. Now, guys, it is important to understand that before we get into this case study, that when I'm working with clients, I am not there labeling you with problem, or saying this is your shadow. Clients generally don't know why I am doing this stuff because they don't need to. You as a man don't need to know the therapeutic part of it. I am just showing you this so that you have an understanding of how I work, my methodology. And so you're coming to me to get the results. And I use particular styles and embodiment and a deep understanding of your mind to get you those results. So first of all, inside the man, this guy had a strong career, and it's important to establish that this particular type of work, you have to be in a position where, you know, financial stability is there. You have to be in a position where you've earned some level, or you've gone out into the world and taken on some challenge of your own life. That is crucial. I'm going to break down why in another video. But this guy had a great role, was in a very good position. The kind of guy who delivers well and follows through consistently for like the company he works for. The problem is that in our first block of working together ages ago, he'd actually developed and found what he was truly passionate about. And so he had now gotten into a role, and on the side, he'd started a business to help him enter that world and be around that world a lot more. He had the offer. He also had a very good strategy. He had a method of getting the business off the ground, essentially. And he also had a goal of what was the income level he needs to achieve in order to replace his current role in which he wanted to leave. So everything was there, yet when it came to the one thing that he had to go do to pull the trigger on to really utilize his skill set that he developed over the time, he seemed to do everything else but the one thing. So the work in this case, right? So first of all, it was just essentially mapping out his experience. Like, what was his experience with the world? What are the skills and talents that he both has and has not recognized in himself? Now, the thing about this guy is he had came from a sales background, and he worked within a specific sales role where he developed an identity which wasn't truly in line with his own personal values. So there was parts of that identity that there was a level of shame around. Alongside that, we also discovered that there was assertiveness in which he hadn't developed a proper relationship with, along with most guys, most modern men in the world haven't developed that relationship with how to utilize specific emotions inside them. So even though he had the skill set, even though he had the abilities, our conscious mind, our conscious awareness will not allow us to access these abilities if they are rejected. It will do anything but the one thing that puts us into the position that we have to use them. So once we understood that, then it was the next phase. It was the next thing. And the second thing was just building his own center. And we had done previous work around on this before, but it was just a reminder essentially of his home personality. So if he was to integrate these parts of himself back into, how does he want to operate with them? Like, what is the values and what is true to him, so he can start to use these in his own fashion, not the way I want him to use it, just how does he want to use it? What are they in alignment of him as an individual? This part is important, and this is actually where a lot of men's work misses out, is because you can go off and do all these retreats, and you can go off and do all these insights, and you can start to bring this unconscious material up. But if you do not build a strong center first, if you do not have a strong frame, your ego complex is not strong enough to hold it or understands it, you will not embrace it. You will not integrate it. So reminding him and building his own center was the core of this part. Then the third part was the work integration. And so now that we have an understanding of all these different parts, the parts of him that were rejected, it's just about integrating them and bringing them back into life. It's about recognizing these qualities and saying, and redeveloping a different perspective on them, like the old identity in which he created. How can I take and shape a lot of those qualities and now use them with what I now know to be true? And then for the assertiveness, in this particular case, I actually advise to go do Muay Thai or get involved in combat sports. It's one of the best ways to get involved and get really into the emotion of anger, but not to lash out with it. Has to be contained and also directed in some healthy fashion. This way, we developed a clean container for that same assertive energy to be directed and to be lived in the body. Now, I just want to point out, it's no good you watching this video and say, oh, well, I just need to go do Muay Thai. That's not the case, because the whole thing was developing the container, and the integration work is what's important. It's the allowing the unconscious material coming up and accepting it, because without the work underneath it, it would just have been another activity, another thing on the list, essentially. And so the result, within a couple of weeks, he actually just launched the thing that he'd been doing everything else but the thing, so he started running his own ads, he started developing leads, and he just started getting on the phone and also networking, actually getting in front of people in real life, because that was the thing. Like, you could tell off the call that he was really passionate about this stuff. He really genuinely cared. It was just a matter of him understanding and seeing that for himself and then operating with that within the environment that he was around. So what changed with him wasn't the business model, it wasn't his skills, it wasn't even his offer. He just became more aware of his skills, abilities, the parts of himself that were quote unquote rejected, or he hadn't fully embraced it, and just operated more fully. And that's what this specific type of work does. It develops the man from the inside out. For instance, this guy does not come looking to me for answers every week. Yeah, sure, we get on a call every couple of weeks to remove any unconscious blocks or limiting beliefs that might come up. But it's not like he's hanging off the next framework or me like really down on top of him, micromanaging, making sure he's doing everything. No, there's genuine empowerment here. It's not a man who needs to be coached more as time goes on. It's not a man who needs me to micromanage him and tell him step by step and what the answers are. It's a man who needs his coach less, because the part of him meant to be running his own life finally came forward and he's starting to embrace it. If you've watched this far and you've recognized any of the patterns here, or something in this video is hitting home for you, then the work to break it is something I do in my own group container called Foundations. It's built specifically for men with a side hustle, a side business, or a personal project that's almost been building for months or maybe even years, but you can't seem to get the thing off the ground, to make the moves that bring the actual money in. You know the offer, you know the funnel, you know the market that you're going working in, you know you've been through all the courses and stuff like that. Foundations is essentially, I map out the patterns that are keeping you from moving and keeping you from actually going and starting to build this thing properly. Inside Foundations, we work on the destructive patterns, or the things that are holding you back. We start to develop your own strong center and then work to shift any of these destructive patterns. This way you can land your first $500 to $1,000 or your first 2 to 3 paying clients. If that is something you're interested in, then it's in the link below.